Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights and information, please visit mobilityredefined.com. That is mobilityredefined.com. Welcome to the Mobility Redefined podcast, where we explore innovations and forward-thinking strategies in public transport. I am Dr. Kaan Yildizgoz, and today I am very excited to be joined by Brieuc de Meeùs, who is CEO of STIB Brussels, which is public transport provider in the city of Brussels from Belgium. STIB has been a pioneer in sustainable mobility and the key driver of Brussels' transition for cleaner and more efficient urban mobility. Welcome, Brieuc. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, good afternoon, Kaan. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm very excited to discuss with you a lot of points during this podcast because there are a lot of good developments in Brussels that I believe can be very interesting for many of the countries and cities all around the world.
Sure, I will be happy to share our experiences with all the people listen to your podcast, and I hope it will be interesting for them.
Thank you so much, Brieuc. And let's start, to discuss about the model shift in Brussels, which I see in recent years, particularly last 10, 20 years. The Brussels capital region has seen a significant shifts in the car ownership, with over 50% of households now without a car. Could you tell us how STIB is supporting these changing mobility patterns and how the Good Move plan aligns with Brussels' broader sustainability objectives?
In fact, the company STIB has been the backbone of that transition from private car to other means of mobility. Why? Because we have been considered as an extremely interesting alternative to these cars. That's why the government of Brussels has invested since years a lot in the development of our network and our public transport system. And these investments have been made in all modes. It means in bus, in trams, and in metro. And above that, also in all the systems necessary to make the mobility with the public transport easier and more comfortable for the user. It means if you make a public transport system attractive to the customer, you will get new customers. It is one of the most important conditions when you are developing such a system. And that's what we are doing since 10 years now. We invest a lot in that public transport system in Brussels.
That's perfect. I remember one photo from 1970s or 1980s showing the Grand Place of Brussels, which is full of cars, and now it's full of people. So actually, thanks to these initiatives run by Brussels in terms of prioritizing public transport, walking and cycling, and creating space for the people.
That's true. But Grand Place is one position between others, and in many places in the region, in the city, the car has disappeared, and which makes the life for the inhabitants much easier, much more comfortable, and surely better.
It seems like in Brussels, owning a car is almost like owning a boat. You might use it occasionally, but it's mostly parked somewhere.
That's true. It's correct. And because maybe you don't know that we have also a low emission zone, which makes that the old cars may not enter the city anymore. And that only the new cars with electric motor or new type of engine can come into the city. It means that the air is purer, is better for the inhabitants, better for the people being there. And we can take some measures of that, and we show that the air is much better in Brussels than in the past.
That's fantastic. And you also mentioned that investment in the public transport. If I am not wrong, there is an investment plan which is more than 6 billion euros now for the period of 2019 to 2028, covering modernization of public transport, metro investment, tram investment. Could you give some highlight of ongoing projects on this mega infrastructure-related public transport and explain how these improvements are reshaping public transport for people of Brussels?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier in our interview, we have invested a lot in the three modes. And for the bus, for instance, we have completely reshaped the network, investing a lot in cleaner buses and mainly in new electric buses. The whole fleet will be completely electric within a few years from now. It represents a huge investment, not only because the bus will become fully electric, but you have to transform also all the depots, which were built in the past for buses with a classical engine, and you have to convert all these depots into electric ones. This is a lot of work and a huge investment. On the second hand, we have a tram network, which is one of the oldest in Europe. It is more than 150 years old. And we still are developing that network. And very recently, we opened a new line, or the King opened a new line in September, the line number 10. And it means that we put a few kilometers of tracks more in the city, because we consider that the tram is a very good mean of transport, because it has a high capacity, much higher, surely double or triple of the bus. It means that it's very interesting in a city. And besides this, we invest a lot also in the metro. You know, Brussels has developed in the 70s, 80s, a very interesting system, which is what we call in Brussels the pre-metro. It means that we have built underground infrastructure, but putting into the infrastructure trams, and considering that later, it means now, today, we would replace this tram by trains, metro trains, what happened. And we still have these lines of pre-metro, and we are transforming now part of line 3 from pre-metro to put heavier metro trains, heavy metro, as we call that in Brussels. This is one big part of the metro investment, transforming what is existing into metro. And besides that, we will add to that line number 3, we had 6 more kilometers of metro, completely new one, with new infrastructure. And it's also a very heavy investment. This only to develop the metro system, which, as in all the cities, is the backbone of public transport system.
And perfect. And also you mentioned the electric bus transition. And I know that you are also testing about the hydrogen buses. Mm-hmm. How was your experience about the hydrogen buses so far in your testing?
The huge challenge of hydrogen is not the bus itself, nor the engine or the motor of the bus. This is technically completely under control. The problem of hydrogen is the logistics of hydrogen. To know where, because in this case, you have to use green hydrogen. It means hydrogen produced with CO2-free energy. And the problem is to know, would I have sufficient quantities of green hydrogen to run a fleet of H2 buses? And today, that problem is not solved, not only in Belgium or in Brussels, where we had the test, but anywhere in the world. It's, you know, the chicken or the egg, who will start with the production of green hydrogen, and secondly, who will bring the produced hydrogen to the location where it must be loaded into the buses. And that problem is today not completely solved. If you speak with other colleagues and other industries working on that topic, you will see that it's still a question mark. Who will produce, where would they produce the hydrogen, green hydrogen, and how to bring it to location where it will be used.
I fully agree. That's what we are noticing when we interview with other cities who are now experiencing with hydrogen buses as well. And we discussed a little bit about the investments and infrastructure upgrade, but also I know that you have a lot of projects in terms of development and improving your current service, and especially you are getting support from the new technologies. And AI is one of them. STIB has embraced AI-driven solutions from predictive maintenance to the customer service chatbots. How has this selective innovation strategy impacted STIB's operations and customer experience?
In fact, we were one of the first, as far as I remember, to test and to chatbot, because we launched, in fact, the chatbot more than 10 years ago. And it was very interesting because we were not speaking at that moment about AI, nothing about that. But that technology was just arising, and we have tested it with a lot of success. And in fact, a lot of our communication with the clients today is based on these experiences from the past. This is for the client relationship, and we are still living on that experience today. Technologically, for the maintenance, for instance, we also have installed ourselves and developed ourselves a very interesting system on the trams, for instance. On one tram, we have installed a system which is just checking the power lines of the tram. And so in the past, you had to go all over the network with a special car, and it took hours and hours just to check your infrastructure. Today, we have an information on real time about the maintenance status of the power line. And it gives us a lot of very precious information about that type of infrastructure. We've developed that ourselves with limited means, but it's extremely efficient. This is what we are today experiencing. Now, for the futures, there are a lot of further possibilities for predictive maintenance, and we are very active, surely, with the new rolling stock we are purchasing for the metros and the trams.
That's really important. STIB serves over 1 million riders every day, and with such a high volume of interaction, data plays a vital role. How is STIB leveraging public and private transport data to optimize service and enhance the overall mobility in Brussels?
This is a key question. In Europe, there has been 1 or 2 initiatives of MaaS, mobility as a service. And we've been that type of initiative in Scandinavian countries. I think in Helsinki somewhere. There are some initiatives in Vienna and not so many others. And we developed such a system 2 years ago, a MaaS. The commercial name is Floya, which is in fact aggregating all these data from ourselves, but also from others, and proposing to customers and to clients a complete mobility solution from door to door. And you can start with, for instance, a step from your home to the next public transport halt. And then from there, you take a tram, a bus, a taxi, whatever you want. And with the parameters you are defining yourselves in the application. And in one-step purchase system, you will be able to solve your problem of mobility. We have launched that 2 years ago. It requests a lot of developments. It's quite expensive to develop. But the success is coming, and we see that we have more and more users. We have 10,000s of people using that system, and we are adding new functionalities every month. And we now have to see whether the full market will respond positively or not. It's still in sort of test phase, operational test phase, and it's positively perceived in Brussels, surely.
And Brieuc, just for this MaaS solution, is this a solution system that's launched by you as an operator? Am I right? As a public transport operator?
That's correct.
It's not coming from authority, it's from you. It's a good initiative that you are also integrating with other players in the city.
Absolutely. We are integrating other players, private players, and we are integrating for sure our own system and our own services. But you have a train, you have steps, you have bikes, you have taxis, you have any type of mobility system today, and future system we don't know, which can be integrated into that app.
I remember when I was living in Brussels in the past, I was using at nighttime the taxi service. I don't remember exactly the name of the service, Cambio, if I'm not wrong, maybe I make mistake, but I was using it nighttime. Yeah, taxi stop, sorry, maybe I make a mistake, with the name. And it was very useful service. When the public transport was not available, you were providing an alternative to the people to go their home at nighttime.
A very cheap alternative today is still working. It's highly appreciated. In fact, you get a taxi for €5. And the only condition is that you have to step into the taxi at a defined position, but it brings you wherever you want. But you have to go on a defined position.
Perfect, because you are putting all the alternatives for the people to replace and for convincing them to leave their cars. It's very obvious that the car ownership is reducing in Brussels.
Absolutely, completely obvious. And you told it in the introduction. I don't have the exact number, but a lot of people have left the cars. And in fact, when they leave the cars, they received for a certain period free rides on the network for 1 or 2 years.
So it's like a welcome for the people who are living there.
Absolutely.
It's a good gift from STIB for those who are living their cars. And I also want to discuss with you a little bit about, because I know STIB yourself as a leader of STIB, you are putting a lot of attention for the employee-centric culture and workplace excellence in STIB. And if I'm not wrong, STIB is the largest employer in Brussels and has been recognized as a top employer for last 9 to 10 years. What are some of your key strategies STIB uses to maintain this status? And how does a strong workplace culture contribute to achieving your mobility goals?
Yeah, in fact, you have constantly to adapt yourselves to the labor market. And what is the labor market today is the growing generation. And they are expecting something else than what we were expecting for ourselves 30 or 25 years ago. And you have to adapt yourselves. And, that's extremely important. Secondly, what is extremely important also is we have to show to all these candidates that, in fact, what you are doing in a company such a public transport operator is really a work giving a purpose. And it means that what you are doing is really participating to the life of people from Brussels, people being in Brussels, commuting to Brussels, and that what you are doing is essential for their own life, for the economical life, for the private life, for whatever they are doing. They are using public transport, and working for public transport is really giving a purpose, giving sense to these candidates. And a lot of them are joining the company because of that. They are making a useful job for the community. It's very important.
I mean, being an attractive employer is also certainly very important, especially when we consider about, let's say, the staff crisis, let's say about the driver crisis all around the world now in public transport. And what you are doing is very critical for different public transport operators to take as an example for themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was saying is applicable to the very high profiles, but also to any type of profile you are using. We have drivers for sure, but we have a lot of technical people for the maintenance of that system. We need people able to develop apps, to develop the MaaS we were speaking about, to develop the chatbots, the AI. We need any type of profile, and everybody is welcome, in fact, at STIB.
So Richard Branson says, take care of your employees and they will take care of your customers. So that's what's happening, it seems, in Brussels with STIB.
That's correct. But you have to tell them every day that the core of your business is the clients.
Certainly. Brieuc, as we look to the future, what are some of the long-term goals of STIB has set to maintain its leadership in sustainable and accessible public transport?
The key issue is that we never stop investing in public transport. It is valid for STIB, it is valid for other cities. Continue investing in public transport because, as I said it very often, we are like blood into the city. We are bringing the prosperity of a city anywhere on the territory. A lot of cities have understood that if you invest in public transport, you are investing in the prosperity of your own region and your own city. Continue investing in PT.
Thank you, Brieuc, for sharing these exciting updates and insights with us today. Before we wrap up, are there anything else you would like to add regarding STIB's plans or your advices for other cities striving towards sustainable transport? Because I know that you are also deputy president of UITP. You were chairing many years the metro division of UITP. Maybe there could be some advices that you can be sharing with the rest of the world as well.
I just told it, invest in public transport and you will face problems developing all this system. It costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. But after that, once it's completed, once it's finished, then you will get a fantastic development tool for your region and your city. Never hesitate to invest any cent in the public transport, even if it is expensive and even if it takes time.
It will pay back, certainly. It's a very good investment for our city.
It pays back, but not directly, but it pays back surely. Imagine any city, any big city, without metro, without tram, without bus. What do you do?
We cannot do anything. So business will not work.
Yeah.
Social life, it will not work. So
for sure. The development of the city goes also through a public transport system.
It has been a big pleasure having you on the podcast, Brieuc. Thank you for joining us. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Mobility Redefined. Stay tuned for more conversations with leaders transforming mobility across the world.
It was my pleasure, Kaan.
Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights, visit our website at mobilityredefined.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app to stay updated with our latest episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation.